Very good evening. We welcome you all to the next book discussion in the series IHC Conversations with Authors that is presented by Habitat Library and Research Center, India Habitat Center. Today we have a discussion on the book Gender Equity in Hospitality, The Case of India, that is authored by Professor Dr. Payal Kumar. On behalf of India Habitat Center, we extend a very warm welcome to author of the evening, Dr. Payal Kumar. Having lived in 4 countries, Dr. Payal Kumar refers to herself as a global citizen. She is currently Principal Academic Advisor, Indian School of Hospitality, and also a visiting professor, XLRI India. She is a prolific writer with 18 books to her credit and several research papers under her belt. She is also a prize-winning researcher with national and international awards. Dr. Payal Kumar is a special issues editor, Journal of Management, Spirituality and Religion, and she is also editor-in-chief of the Journal of Business, Ethics and Society. She is on the editorial board of several global journals. In an earlier avatar, she was Vice President, Editorial, Sage Publications Limited. Weaving her 25 years of experience in the corporate sector with her academic knowledge, Dr. Payal Kumar also curates and conducts several highly acclaimed management development workshops for multinational firms such as Hero Group, HP, and Broadridge Consulting. She teaches MBA students and doctoral scholars and trains corporate executives with equal passion. We warmly welcome all our distinguished panelists who have joined us today evening. Thank you so much for being here today. And before we move to our main program, which we are very sure will be an insightful discussion, I would like to introduce our panelists for the evening. Mr. Dilip Puri, founder and executive chairman, Indian School of Hospitality. He served as the managing director of Starwood Hotels and Resorts from 2011 till the end of 2017, when he set out to be an education entrepreneur and founded ISH. He has over 3 decades of experience in the hospitality industry, and he has worked with brands such as Oberoi, Taj, IHG and Starwood in India, Australia and Africa. Mr. Puri is a recipient of Hotelier India Hall of Fame Lifetime Achievement Award. He is a member of the ISH faculty and a full-time industry mentor to the students. Thank you, sir. We have with us Mr. Sandeep Tandon. He is an alumnus of IHM Delhi with over 4 decades of experience in the hospitality and cultural sector. He began his career with the ITDC Group and went on to hold key leadership roles at Old World Hospitality and Ekatra Ventures. He has been associated with Habitat World at the India Habitat Center since its inception, contributing significantly to its evolution as one of the country's leading cultural, culinary and convention destinations. He currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer, Habitat World, where his vision and steady leadership continue to shape the guest experience and operational excellence. He is a passionate sports enthusiast and also has a keen interest in politics and current affairs. Then we have with us Ms. Anjali Mehra. She is a seasoned hospitality brand marketing and communications professional with nearly 4 decades of experience across geographies. As an Executive Vice President, Brands and Communications, the Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts, she is responsible for developing and implementing a comprehensive and integrative marketing and communication strategy to further enhance and strengthen the positioning of the Leela brand as an embodiment of the true Indian luxury. She is also the founder of Reefknot Consulting, a brand marketing and communication advisory. Mr. Ajay Tyagi, he is the president and managing partner of a boutique law firm, Lex Terrae, that is having offices in Delhi, Kolkata and Bangalore. Mr. Tyagi has worked in several jurisdictions, specializes on cross-border transactions and masters the legal audits and compliance, especially pertaining to the hospitality sector. He hones the skills of negotiations and maneuvering cultural aspects of international business. Mr. Ajay Tyagi has successfully structured and executed transactions pertaining to the establishing startup businesses in India, both domestic and international, which includes joint ventures and corporate takeovers in infrastructure, beverage, real estate, hospitality, healthcare, information technology, and banking sectors of the economy. Then we welcome Mr. Yogesh Kumar. He is the Associate Vice President Development at the Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts, where he spearheads the brand's mindful growth through strategic investments and partnerships across India's most distinctive destinations. With nearly 2 decades of experience in the hospitality industry, he has been an integral part of the Leela Group for over 15 years, contributing to its evolution as India's foremost luxury hotel brand. His career spans diverse leadership roles in operations, sales, marketing, and revenue management, and some of the India's most iconic hotels, including the Oberoi, New Delhi, the Imperial New Delhi, ITC Maurya, and the Leela Palace, New Delhi. Beyond his professional endeavors, Mr. Yogesh Kumar finds joy in fatherhood. He keeps a deep interest in global affairs and nurtures a lifelong passion for sports. Ms. Bindu Jacob Mathew, who will be moderating the today's discussion. She is a strategic ESG, sustainability, business leader and researcher with over 2 decades of deep domain expertise across hospitality and banking sectors in sales and marketing strategy, new product development, operations, wellness and sustainability. She serves as the corporate head sustainability and compliance at Mahindra Holiday and Resorts India Private Limited by driving ESG strategy, compliance and responsible tourism into core resort operations pan India. She started her career in sales and marketing at ITC Hotels in the luxury segment. She is an XLRI alumni and pursuing her PhD in strategic management at IIM Indore. We welcome Director Professor Dr. KG Suresh, Director India Habitat Center. He is a veteran journalist, eminent media educator. He has been Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi, National University of Journalism and Communication, and a great institution builder. Thank you so much, sir, for being here today. I request you to say a few words before we proceed further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhavna. This was not part of the program. Last minute only, Dr. Payal, insisted that I should speak a few words because we have certain meetings planned up for tomorrow and I was busy with that. But I thought I'll just drop in. So all the esteemed panelists who are present here, my colleagues, Dr. Sandeep Tandon, Dr. Geeta, and dear friends, a warm welcome to India Habitat Center. In my introduction, it was mentioned that, I am a journalist turned academician and all that. But in the early 90s, my first job was at the Hyatt Regency at the piano bar. That very few people know. My sister was also with the Taj Group. So we have a family link to hospitality industry in that. But of course, later on, due to, again, one of the issues that Dr. Payal has highlighted, the shift duties and all that, she had to leave it. When a fellow journalist turned academician, Dr. Payal, came with this idea, I thought that this is something that we as an institution should be looking at. As a leader in hospitality business ourselves, we should be, not only just having him, this would give us a lot of insights on the way ahead for us. I remember, when I was the Director General of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, we did a similar study on the status of women in media in South Asia. And I vividly remember that, media is so, I would say, vociferous about the rights of so many people, so many, underprivileged sections. But when it comes to women staffers, their own women employees, and I'm sure Dr. Payal would vouch for it, they had an entirely different mindset. In fact, many of the institutions, media institutions, did not have even the mandatory ICC, the Internal Complaints Committee, as per the Vishaka guidelines of the Supreme Court. So I thought that this kind of studies with regard to every industry is important. And so here we are having this very important discussion. And what has been my observation across the country is that, not that women are not there, at least in Habitat, women are there in our hospitality segment, the Habitat world, which we call it, holding very important positions. But yes, across the country, if you look at it, on an average, we generally find that they are underrepresented. Not only underrepresented, but also that a large chunk of them, those who are the representatives, are mostly confined to the housekeeping and other segments rather than leadership roles. You don't find many, unless of course there are, the big corporates where there are policies, specific policies aimed at promoting women, including I think Marriott has a policy and Taj Group has a policy. So this is an important subject, and I thought that this is. I would have certainly loved to have more representatives from the hospitality industry here, but I believe that this is the beginning of a discussion, and this book would be discussed across the country. That's very important, and we really need to, how to bring in more women, because a lot of women are not only getting into this industry, but how to ensure that they get, treatment at par with their male colleagues. So it also calls for not just policy changes, but also attitudinal and mindset changes also. So I'm sure that this book is going to trigger that discussion, and I said that the speaking on my behalf would be done by Sandeep, my colleague, and I'm sure that he would be putting the perspective of India Habitat Center and Habitat World here. And thank you once again, and congratulations to Dr. Payal for bringing up this very important topic. And I'm sure that, this will bring about certain changes in the coming days, both at the policy level of the hospitality industry, and as I said, in bringing about behavioral change, mindset change, attitudinal change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request author for the evening, Dr. Payal Kumar, to present a copy of her book to the Director, India Habitat Center. Now I request Dr. Payal Kumar to please go ahead with her presentation. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Professor, and thank you to the Indian Library and Research Division for everything that you've done to organize this today. I truly appreciate it. I'm a very proud member of Indian Habitat Center, and I'm pretty much part of the furniture in the library, which is upstairs. So, just before we start, I was just looking at the cover, and when Emerald, the publisher, I've done a lot of books with Emerald, London, and they kept sending me all these designs for the cover, and they were all kind of still the Western ethos and the stories of India, right? So finally, there was one of my old colleagues. I used to be her boss in Sage, and she'd shifted to Canada, and I remember she used to do lovely, book covers. So I requested her, Deepthi Saxena. So I felt she brought across this Indianness, which I wanted to show. So a lot of people to thank. First of all, I must thank Dilip Puri, who's sitting over there. Dilip, if you can just wave so they know who you are. If it wasn't for his encouragement, the book wouldn't have happened. He's the founder of Indian School of Hospitality and a leading hotelier. And the minute I suggested this research to him, and he just immediately said, yes, we'll get together a research team. And I must also thank WICI, the Women in India Chamber of Commerce. There are some representatives here. Could you put your hands up, please, from the audience? There's some people from WICI. Yeah, okay, okay. Hospitality sector, thank you again, because they supported the research as well. So I'm very, very grateful. So I've done quite a few books. I try and look very much at the Indian story. There's another one here, Gender Equity in the Boardroom in India. And I had an earlier book launch. This is not an Indian story. This is a 5-volume set, Palgrave Macmillan, on leadership and followership, because people talk about leaders, but they don't really talk about followers. So we did books like, so the book on servant leadership got 16,000 downloads, so I think we hit a raw nerve somewhere. Okay, so what is the background to the study? As I've already said, it was sponsored by ISH and Wiki. I collected together a team of about 6 researchers, most of them doctoral scholars. And thanks to Wiki, I was able to get in touch with 23, leaders in the industry. I'm not going to take names, but male and female, people at very, very high leadership positions. And they were interviewed because it's a qualitative study. Hundreds and hundreds of pages of interviews were all typed out. And then the coding was done, and I analyzed all the coding. And finally, it brought about a lot of themes, which I'll talk about. So these are some of the hotels, not all of them, that I've mentioned over here, the leaders over here. So this is not very visible, perhaps, but I'll just go through it. So this is the results in a nutshell. So I found several challenges for why women are not getting to leadership positions in India. Although in other sectors they are, like banking, women are doing very well. In pilots, we have the largest number of female pilots in the world, I think about 15%, whereas US is about 5%. So this question kept disturbing me, that how come in hospitality there are women leaders, but why not as much as what we would anticipate? So the results from these interviews, I found reasons at individual level, group level, and organizational level. So at individual level, I found entry barrier. As Professor said, working long hours is a barrier. Some women may want to join, but they don't even join because of that challenge. A lot of women quitting after childbirth. Some women underestimating the power of networking. So after work, they tend to run home to look after the kids and the in-laws or whatever, whereas, often the male colleagues would stay on for a drink, and then you get a lot of networking done, which is very much required in every industry, but especially in hospitality. And male advantage was there for the male colleagues. It was much more easier for them to be mobile, to leave their job and relocate. At the group level, for women, there was more work-life pressure because we are a patriarchal society where the woman marries, goes to the in-laws' house, and has to usually, if a child falls sick, it's usually the wife, not the husband, who stays back if they're a working couple. Not every time, of course. I know it's a generalization. And then I saw firm level stereotypes and challenges. It came across, there seemed to be less mentoring done of women. Role models are less anyway, because there's not enough women in that position. And gender stereotypes by employers who feel that maybe a woman can't do this job without even asking, would you like to do it? And then a kind of a paternalistic attitude also came out. So the notable barriers were, this was very intense, think manager, think male. This came across very strongly in the interviews. So, if a woman is doing well, somebody may not even consider her for a leadership position because you've got this kind of fixed image. Location bias came out very strongly. I'm just quoting somebody. The biggest barrier I've seen in preventing women from rising is mobility. It's not easy to stay at the same location for a long time and keep growing. I've not taken names, so this is a senior person, it's a male. This is one barrier that I found very specific to the hospitality industry, because in other industries, even if you don't relocate, it's okay, you can get a promotion. But in this industry, if you do not relocate, there's no chance. There's an instance of somebody I know recently. She was doing very well, very talented. I've worked with her, and yet she had to go out to Dubai for about 8-9 months, and then she came back to India, and then she got into a very senior position. So unless you relocate, and it's not always easy if you've got young children or family responsibilities. Less mentoring, lack of long work-life balance is a big problem. Again, a quotation: long operational work hours are a discouragement for women in the industry because it conflicts with family obligations. Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, she wrote a book where Lean In, you might have read it, where she says the best career decision for a woman is to marry the right man, somebody who will encourage her. But I'll say in India, to marry the right family, isn't it? If you don't have the extended support, you've had it. But if you do have the extended support, it's amazing. It can be absolutely amazing, right? Another quotation, I think top barriers for women is lack of family support. So I'm just quickly finishing because I want other people to talk of rich experiences. What is the way forward? Some kind of solutions I've suggested. Organizations may want to draft a paternal and maternal leave policy if like a couple are working in the same organization. Motherhood penalty. A lot of research has shown that if a woman even takes a small break and comes back to the workplace, she's never able to catch up with her male counterpart. So what some Scandinavian countries has done, especially Sweden, is that they say you can take up to 2 years leave. We don't, 1 year paid and 1 year unpaid to look after the child. There they don't have extended families. But if you come back and your male counterpart has got a promotion, we will take you up at the same level. So they actually cut that motherhood penalty. They just do away with it. I really don't think that's going to come to India in any rush, but I thought I'd put it out there. Line managers, senior executive training need to deal with unconscious gendered biases. We have biases which we know about, but we have biases which we don't know about, which is more dangerous. Networking, perhaps initiatives for women to share their experiences across multiple locations within an organization. I've heard women saying that somebody was mentoring me in a different country in our organization, but it was so good to talk to that person because at least I had a role model and I had somebody to talk to and bounce off ideas. Maybe a 4.5-day week work policy, create an ombudsman from the Ministry of Tourism to address grievances of women. Maybe Wiki could get involved here. And incentive schemes for greater mobilizations of young girls to enter government programs and apprenticeship programs. So I'm going to stop over here because I'd like other panelists to talk as well. And if I can call Bindu on the stage, she's going to take over, hopefully. Thank you.
May I now request all the panelists to please come to the dais? Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I request moderator for today's event, Ms. Bindu Jacob Mathew, to take forward the event. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to this wonderful panel discussion. Dr. Payal Kumar, who is the author of this book, is a very dear friend of mine, and we go a long way. I met her, I think, in 2017. Completely different circumstances. The leader that she is, I'll tell you what she did to me. She was not a hotelier. She was doing her PhD. I was doing a course in entrepreneurship in XLRI. I just happened to meet her and she put the seed in my head that I have to do my PhD. And I was so enamored by her. We would have these walks every time she came from Delhi. So we'll have these 1-hour walks and she said, yeah, PhD is like so easy. I said, no, I'm a hotelier. I have no clue. How will I do my PhD? Fast forward, I am doing my PhD and she's a hotelier. So you know the power of leadership. She's actually demonstrated what a woman leader needs to do to another woman. Encouragement, make things look absolutely easy. And then I have to tell you this one little story. One fine day she calls me and she says, Bindu, guess what? I'm joining IHC and I have no clue what is hospitality all about. I said, don't worry, you'll do a fantastic job. You are a person, at heart, she loves people. And you cannot be a hotelier, regardless of gender, if you don't love people. So she comes with that core quality of being a hotelier. And then she gave me another one of those shocks. She said, I have to moderate this session. And I said, I don't know any of these esteemed panelists. They all are big shots, according to her. And I said, how will I, manage? She said, no problem, you'll handle it. So I'm very honored and privileged to introduce and get deep insights from stalwarts who have been in this industry for decades. And they have been handpicked by Dr. Payal Kumar. So you know what their caliber is, what they stand for, and what they have contributed to the leadership domain by their own, how they walked the talk and how they have contributed to women in their specific industry. So we have very little time. So I'm going to ask some few questions to these panelists and post these rounds of, couple of questions that will be opened up to all these panelists. There will be a Q&A session For the audience, maybe a couple of questions. Feel free, get your questions going in your head, because you have a chance to ask any of these panelists, and especially Dr. Payal Kumar. So my first question this evening is to Mr. Sandeep Tandon, who is sitting here, Chief Operating Officer. So the first question that I have for you is, the India Habitat Center is well known for its multiple casual and fine dining restaurants. What kind of mentoring and training do you provide to ensure talent is recognized?
Good evening, everyone. As I think most of you know, India Habitat Center is known for its culture, intellectual activities that they do, and for its food and cuisine. It's been in existence for over 27 years now, and I can very proudly say that most of the people, especially the senior management, been there throughout for over 20 years now. I was checking the turnover rates, the staff turnover, and we just have about 12 to 13% across all levels, which is very low in the hospitality sector, and we have hardly any turnover at the mid-level or the senior level. For that, what we do is, other than mentoring and training, of course, mentoring starts right from the time a person joins. So, not that too many are joining since we don't have much turnover, but we really handhold them. So first 1 month, we have the HR department look after them. And they go through all the departments. They're not put in their department immediately. So they spend a month with the HR department, sensing all the other departments that are related with their own department before they go to their own department. Once they go to an apartment, they're attached to a senior person there, who may be a senior supervisor with us for a few years, like a buddy, or a manager. And then they guide him and handhold him till he's fully settled. Then comes the training part. Training we divided into two. One is the general training, which is given to all the employees and which is done by the HR department and the training department. That is primarily your communication skills, telephones, body language, firefighting, things like this, first aid classes. The skill training is in the department, and we pay a lot of emphasis on that the entire skill training is on the job by the managers and the head of the departments concerned. So a person is trained, he feels comfortable, he knows that other than he adding to the center, we've added to his knowledge, his growth. So people who leave are always leaving for the 5-star luxury hotels because they want that glamour. They want to experience that glamour in the hotels, and they go at a senior positions and higher salaries. So we know that yes, they've been well trained and well looked after. Equally important is the atmosphere that's created for people, not just here, but in the hospitality industry and everywhere. If it's a nice work environment, they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel looked after, they'll be very happy with it. And especially for ladies, though we like to improve, like the director also mentioned, our strength, we currently about 15 to 20% lady staff working with us. But amongst the senior people, we have 33% at the HOD levels. So which is quite remarkable. And what we do, we're very flexible for that. Whether it's their timings or work from home, as long as they're doing their job, and if they're not required to be here, they can work from home. And the flexibility, their leaves, so that we've been very, very open about and very understanding, even for the female staff down the line. One thing we pay a lot of emphasis on is the posh awareness. So we want to make sure that a very, very healthy environment, a safe environment is created. Like, I won't even think twice if my daughters were to say we want to work here. I said by all means. So we want to create that environment that the girls and ladies are feeling extremely safe of working here, which we have managed. And also there's a lot of openness that they can walk into anyone's room, whether their manager or their HOD or the HR or the training, or to my room, and not just female staff, even the male staff, and discuss anything, whether it's a personal issue, whether it's a professional issue. So that's the environment we've created. So I would say it's training, mentoring, and the atmosphere that's created that they feel inclusive, they feel wanted, is done for them. So I think that's been a reason for our success, that we've been able to sustain and maintain the quality and the standards that the IHCs had for over 25 years.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tandon. I think it's very important to have leaders. I've had some very, very good male leaders. So there is no discrimination when it comes to leadership. So the moment the leader accepts women, the way, like a lot of listening skills you have, what you've demonstrated, and that goes a long way, to retain women talent. So before I go to the next question to Mr. Dilip Puri, I just want to read out a few book endorsements from global scholars for Dr. Payal Kumar's this very interesting book on gender equity in hospitality, the case of India. So the first book endorsement goes like this. In this much needed study of the hospitality industry in India, Dr. Payal Kumar provides an in-depth analysis of the challenges as well as solutions to women's advancement in leadership. This is by Diana Billy Moria, Professor and Chair of Organizational Behavior and Key Bank Professor at Case Western Reserve University, USA. The second endorsement goes like this. This rigorous study on India's hospitality industry from a gendered lens is a notable contribution to the literature in the global south. Congratulations are in order to the author, Dr. Payal Kumar, for this invaluable monograph. Melissa Fisher, cultural anthropologist, New York University Institute for Public Knowledge and School of Professional Studies, USA. So my next question is to the one and only celebrated entrepreneur in our midst. He's only entrepreneur, and I love entrepreneurs because I've actually studied entrepreneurship. So everybody says they are a breed of a kind, obviously, he must have exhibited corporate entrepreneurship during his Starwood Hotel days. So my question to you, sir, is following a rich experience in leadership as a hotelier, you founded the Indian School of Hospitality. Have you seen any change over the years in the aspirations of young women to join hospitality and tourism sector as a career?
Hi, good evening, everybody. So let me just try and break this up in two parts. Young demographic of today, I think there is lesser issues on women versus men in terms of roles or joining the industry. Our own institutions, demographics of our students, we have 55% women students in both our business hospitality programs as well as our culinary programs. So that diversity in gender, I think, is fairly reflective of this younger generation being less susceptible to the biases which were perhaps faced 10, 15 years from today. I think what's important to understand is that what we're talking about here really is not the gender diversity at a blue-collar workforce level or even at entry-level management levels. I think the issue is with women in leadership. And that's where the challenge really is. The diversity at lower levels is far more equitable than it is at leadership levels, why you don't see women in boardrooms or even in executive committees of organizations, properties, hotels. And I'll share with you some examples in my hospitality career where neither by design nor by any intent, I found that when I started my leadership journey, which is when I first became a general manager of a hotel, it was back in 1995, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I had more women as my department heads in that first role. But it wasn't out of any intent of mine. It just naturally happened that, at operations level, functional roles, all of that, we just had more women. And it was a very successful start to my leadership career because I did well in that hotel. The hotel did well, all of that good stuff. But I didn't connect the dots and see where was the success coming from. All I could figure out that it couldn't have been me. It had to be people who were really doing all the hard yards, and like a good leader does, you reflect off the glory of other people's work and take the credit for it. As I moved into further roles of leadership, including when I worked overseas, both in Australia as well as in Africa, I began to see this direct correlation between my success, my hotel success, and the number of women in my leadership team. Again, it's not as if I hired more women for that to happen. Till I realized that there has to be something more than just, coincidence that I'll end up being very successful in the roles I perform, and then find that a large number of my ex-com, you could call them, my senior leadership team, were women. And as I began to recognize that, understand that clearly, I went looking to hire more women. And that's where I truly began to see this issues of, glass ceilings and all the things Payal enumerates in her book about why women leaders don't bubble up as much. And all of these are reality facts. When you get married and want to be a mother, you have to quit your job. When you want to move and transfer to get promoted, you're not able to. These are real issues. As an example, I had a very senior sales head, and we were working for a multinational company, so the boss would come from Singapore, and he would like to meet his teams individually up in his suite over a drink. Fair enough. And every day, if he had 2 days or 3 days in India, he would invite somebody up to meet him in the evening and have a drink with him, casual chat outside of work. Good things a good boss should do. This girl couldn't go to his room. All her functional colleagues who were men, no problem in them going in the evening. Bosses called us up for a drink, one-on-one. She just couldn't go. It was that stigma or the fear that, somebody's going to see me going into the boss's room and having a drink with him, and what's going to kind of, nor could the boss invite her one-on-one either. And, it struck me then that these are not, who's created these perceptions about, as a senior women leader, you can't go into the room of a senior because you're a woman. And I think those prejudices, while they are now very apparent to both the male leaders, female leaders, to almost everybody, socio-culturally, we still are not comfortable with that happening. So when you try and break these barriers we're talking about, it's not for Sandeep to do or Anjali or Yogesh or me to do. This is a societal change which is almost generational. Yet, the effort it takes, even when you make generational changes, it requires a very significant commitment from today's leadership. And I think today one can comfortably and safely say, certainly for the hospitality industry, but I think it's more broad-based than that, that male leaders are probably even more aware of these challenges about how do you bubble up women into leadership. I think the Leela Group is one of the better examples of how they look at a fairly early stage in a women leader's career to identify the potential and then put them into programming which will allow them to have that comfort, confidence, make up for any gap They might have missed out because they had to leave work for maternity reasons or were not mobile enough to move to another place. So when organizations start demonstrating that, I think then those barriers will lift and we'll see more women. I mean, women in leadership in hospitality industry is truly, it is exceptionalism. I'll give you an example. A CEO, very recently, we were talking about doing some work to train their women leaders. And he was very excitedly telling me, there was this girl of ours from housekeeping, 20 years, she's kind of this thing. Now I've moved her and she's going to be a GM. And he was very excited about it. And I told him, I said, give me one more example. He didn't have another example. So he was relating to me a story about something exceptional, to which I challenged him, said, shouldn't this be the rule rather than the exception? So I think almost all leaders, certainly in our industry today, are very cognizant of this fact. So I think we're probably in a good space today to see many of these barriers breaking. And hopefully that will bring many more women into leadership roles in the hospitality industry. And it's very easy to figure this out. When you think about what they bring to the table distinct to what men do, I don't think you can argue the fact that cognitively, there's no difference between a man and a woman in terms of intellect or in terms of intelligence or all those kind of things. Barring any physical strength, there is no real difference. However, when you look at behavioral aspects of a woman's persona and the natural nature of nurturing, if you like, comes from being a mother and all of those things, that nurturing nature is probably the most critical element which makes them more successful, and more so today, because the demographic of today, this Gen Z we talk about, these young people going into the workforce, that's what they're looking for. They don't need to be told what to do. They know what to do. You tell them what to do, instead of telling you, okay, they'll ask you why. Right? That's a good thing. It's not in our time as if your boss said, jump, and you said, how high. Today, if you ask somebody to jump, he'll say, okay, sure, I will, but tell me why. Right? What they're looking for is an environment which makes them, I think you made that point, makes them feel comfortable, conducive, happy, joy, learning. I'll see growth here. That requires a nurturing culture and environment. And I think that's where women leaders far outweigh anything a male leader can do into providing those kind of environments. And my sense is that those environments are required not just by young people, it's required by everybody. Even I, at my age and stage in life, would like to be in an environment which is nurturing and friendly. So that's my 2 bits.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. So the next question is to a very, very dynamic lady who's seated here, Miss Anjali Mehra. She's been in the branding communication space, and while I was talking to her during tea, I said, this is the most interesting space to be in, most creative space to be in the hospitality sector, because you have the voice none of your male colleagues have. You differentiate your products, you communicate stories, you tell your consumers what your product is all about, and she has all the skills and all the expertise and all the experience, and she's actually a legend in this space. So my question to you, Ms. Anjali Mehra, is what advice would you give leaders in the hospitality industry on how to encourage women leadership?
It's always a tough task to go after Dilip, but I'm going to try this. So I think the advice is not very different whether it's a male or a female, but it's just that I think authenticity to me is important. So be true to who you are. and set your goals, whatever you want to be, whatever gives you happiness. And if you love what you do and you do what you love, nothing can stop you. So believe in yourself, raise your voice when you have a seat at the table. I think as women, and that is a little different from men, whenever we are given an opportunity and a seat at the table, we still hesitate to speak up. And I think that is a change that I feel we can bring about, that if we have a seat at the table, we should be able to speak up. And what I have tried to do from my learning, so first of all, I've faced bias of every kind. I wanted to be a pilot, I couldn't. So I married a pilot and I started working for an airline. So hospitality wasn't really a choice, or it didn't happen by design, it just happened. And then I loved the industry so much that I didn't look beyond it. But even before that, I faced biases of every kind, whether it was gender bias in school or in college, or whether it was social bias or ethnic bias, and today even age bias. So biases are real, they happen. And I think what I have tried to do, and learning from that, has been that I work with a lot of women as far as possible, encourage them, mentor them, get involved in how can they be the best version of themselves, and is there something I can do to be that? I think I've also been privileged to have mentors like Dilip sitting right here. He's played a very important part in my development as a woman leader. And I owe a lot to him. Even today, if there is anything that I need in terms of advice or guidance, I just call him and I know that he'll be there to tell me, give me the right advice. So it's important to look for these kind of mentors who can be your guiding light. I think we all need mentors, whether we are male or female, doesn't matter. But finding that those right mentors who can be your beacon of light, that becomes important. And if you have these, then treasure them. Value them, treasure them. And these are, I've known Dilip, I think, for almost 15 years. And never ever has that. He's challenged you. He's a tough taskmaster. I was part of his team, and he would give you projects that you had never handled before or had no experience in. But then he would tell you, if there is one person who can do it, it is you. Go find out how you can handle it. And that always then, you walked out of his office thinking, what is the solution here? How can I do this better than what I have been doing? Is there another way of doing it? And then when you deep dive into yourself and you look for those answers, you find them. But it takes a mentor to put you on that path. And I think that's very valuable. And I think today, that's what people should look for. Who do they follow? You spoke about it, Dr. Payal, that there are many leaders, but not as many followers. It's important to find the leaders and then follow them as well.
Thank you so much. What ma'am has shared is real life experience and her path to leadership, having a great mentor in her space. So I think women need to lean into things that will work for them, and you will have to do that bit for yourself. Thank you so much. So my next question is, we have a very, very diverse board. I think Dr. Payal Kumar has ensured that. So we have in our midst a person with a legal background, consulting background, Mr. Ajay Tyagi. The next question is for you. What is your advice to the... What is the role of law in ensuring gender equality in the hospitality industry?
First of all, congratulations, Payal. You have been a serial writer, great mentor, and a great friend. Really a very interesting topic, which is really much needed in the industry, which is especially hospitality, which is growing leaps and bounds, especially after the pandemic. As I was, reviewing the title of the book, we say gender equality in hospitality, barriers, systematic and individual. So I see systematic and individual barriers which gets institutionalized. And once they get institutionalized, they get reflected in the socio-economic and politics of the everyday life. That's how I sum it up. As regards HR, now let's go to what are the problems which I foresee. As regards organizations are concerned, one of the fellow panelists had talked about HR, role of HR. So I realized that the time which is given to the newly incumbent employees is very less. The organizations expect a lot in a very short time. And that's one of the main reasons why the women are unable to catch up with the speed of the organization. As regard law is concerned, I think the law is very balanced. In fact, it provides a shelter and cover to all the women, and it gives a lot of protection. But the problem is whether that protection is availed or not. And I'll give you an example of one of the complaints which we are overseeing now at the moment. And the fact is that the minute the complainant comes to the organization, now the complainant as a woman has not only to fight against the respondent, but also many a times the organizations buckle up because in case the name is maligned of the organization. The organization is not willing to listen or take a stance either because of the competence of the respondent or because of, what will happen if the news leaks out to the newspapers. And that's a very big barrier. And so that's how I see that law is there, but whether the society, the organization, and the persons, and the organization I'm talking here is the MD to the HR is all women. That is the sad part. But they are under so much pressure to save the name that they will, try to mellow down the complaint. So that's my experience. And again, I would like to sum up is law is very fair, right from the Constitution to the smallest of the provisions. It's very balanced. But the only imbalance is whether we are able to execute that or not.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ajay Tyagi, for a very different perspective on the legal aspect. So moving on to the next question. This is addressed to Mr. Yogesh Kumar. He is heading the developmental aspects of the Leela group. And as we all know, the hospitality industry is going through a phenomenal growth phase. And so I would love to have his perceptions and perspective given the scenario, because what we are going through now is historic. So can you name some initiatives that you have seen in the hospitality industry in India that have enabled women to get back on the leadership track?
Thank you for the question. And Dr. Payal, once again, congratulations. It's always wonderful to interact with you. And the question you asked, I'd actually like to go 20 years back, since I started my career 20 years back, of where we stood, right? And we seldom used to, when I joined hospitality in 2004, we seldom used to talk about women leadership, having more females, in managerial positions. We seldom used to talk about it. And in that phase, I worked in a few hotels where the percentages of women working, male to female ratio, was about 15%, right? Around 10 to 12 years down the line, we really started talking about, more women inclusion. How can we really, have more females working on board? How do we make things better and how we progress? But it's really in the last 2-3 years, I feel this inclusion, concept moved to how do we give more empowerment? How do we really create leaders? And I'm actually very happy to say in the last few years,
We've seen many lady general managers running the best iconic hotels of India. A lot of Indian females running hotels outside in the world. In fact, this year, one of the most international premier chains, announced their CEO as a woman leader, which is, I think, the first, Anjali, if I'm not wrong. So things have really, really, gradually moved, and kudos to our leadership, for actually ensuring that, the thought process is aligned, and we want to see more women leadership. And the needle has moved, I think, from 15%, if I'm not wrong, to about 25%, which is actually a great job. And while, all the hotel companies are taking care of soft touches, they are enabling a system which empowers, more women inclusion and giving them more opportunities. I would just like to name a couple of examples, what we've done at the Leela. So there's a very interesting strategic program, development program that we have, a Leela Leadership Development Program, which is, ably guided by Mr. Puri from IHC. Thank you, sir, for that. So, over the last 5 years, we recruit about 40 to 50, not graduates, but actually, leaders, bright leaders, male and female from the industry. And 40% of, that entire provision is for females now, which is actually the highest any management training program in the country would entail. That's one. Then we've also created a program, again, under the guidance of so both the people are here under the guidance of Anjali, that's Chefs at the Leela, wherein, we empower our own female chefs, and we also give opportunities to, fantastic female chefs across India to not only showcase their traits, but actually mentor other females, something, that we do for community as well. So things are really shaping up well. It's great horizon for female leadership.
So I'd just like to add to what Yogesh just said about Chefs at the Leela. When we were looking at equity, diversity...
Anjali, you should spell out chefs for them. They wouldn't get it otherwise.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that. So when we were looking at gender diversity, equity, inclusion at the Leela, we did a little bit of research, and we found that in the kitchens all across the world, gender diversity is 1%. Only 1% women in the kitchens globally. And this was a shocking insight. And initially we thought there was a problem with us as a brand, and we were looking inwards. But then we did this whole research and we found out. So we started this program called Chefs at the Leela, SHEFS. And the inspiration behind it was that let's bring in women chefs, Indian women chefs who have made it big on a global stage, and get them to do dinners, curate 4-hand, 6-hand, 8-hand dinners for our guests, but involve our chefs, our lady chefs in the kitchens, and have an entirely women's service team, so they feel encouraged. And on the sidelines of it, do some mentorship, do some counseling, do some open forum conversations, so they get inspired. And we've actually seen that the intake of chefs, women chefs at the Leela over the last 2 years is now almost 30%. So that, and it really became a campaign that just took on legs of its own. There was every brand. We started it on Women's Day as part of our larger campaign, which was Leela Empowers Her. And this was our way of empowering the industry. But every brand came up with a version of Chefs at the Leela as a one-time activation. We've institutionalized this into a training program now, and we run a 1.5-year training to train women chefs and absorb them within our system.
Thank you so much. I think that's great innovation, because we know how difficult it is to get, women chefs in the industry. We actually at Mahindra Holidays, we have a all-women's resort in Goa, and the challenges that we faced were for the chef and the engineering department. So it's a tough call. There's a lot of investment, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scene to motivate them also to, come on board and then also retain them. It's, I think you'll have institutionalized something like this. It's
I'm
fabulous.
waiting to read Dr. Payal's book, but she brought it up on her slide also, where she says stereotyped roles.
Yeah,
Within the
that's true.
industry, we've just kind of bucketed ourselves and said, this is where there can be a woman leader and this is where there cannot.
But it's remarkable that you've taken it to global standards. So, given the paucity of time, we just have one last question for the audience. You can ask the author and the celebrity of the evening, Dr. Payal Kumar.
And I have seen many women leaders there. I'm actually surprised that there are very few women leaders in hospitality. I visit, I'm a member at Mahindra Holidays, I visit Leela, Accor Hotels, member at Habitat also. With the exception of Habitat. Habitat also, I see libraries being managed by the women leaders and so many other departments also. But I thought hospitality, and when I see younger women, I think the way it's changing, very soon I think we'll see GMs and heads of departments and hotels who are ladies who do a far better job than men, especially in this hospitality sector. If women can do so well in oil and gas, which is traditionally a male-dominated domain, but hospitality, I think women folk are far, far better than men.
So let me ask you, in your business, so let's say a woman would be going out to oil rig as well? I mean, she'd actually go and live there for months on end as they do? Wow. Okay.
Not so many, because there are logistics issues and all, but ONGC and Reliance.
No, sorry, what are the logistics issues? Are the logistics issues different for male and female?
Frankly, I was not working on the rigs. I was not in that department.
I know,
but
I
I
think
know,
generally,
like in legal, there are very many women. If you see ONGC, EIL, I think EIL is headed by a woman CMD. In Indian Oil, we have had many women leaders. ONGC, I know for sure, and Reliance Industries, that there are women who go on the rigs and work. It's a recent phenomena, but if oil and gas if women can go out and work on the rigs, all the star hotels are in big cities and much better logistics places.
So I appreciate that. In fact, that's my whole point. That thank you for bringing that up. But in so-called male-dominated sectors, like there's this stereotype that women are not good at maths, and yet women are, heading banking and financial institutions at an amazing level in India. JP Morgan and you name it, right? International leadership, exactly. So that's one stereotype broken. The other stereotype is women can't read maps. So hang on a minute, we're pilots, right? I mean, there's certain stereotypes. So that is the whole question which led to this book, and that's why I didn't know the answer. And so I asked the people who are in the industry, leaders who've seen a lot of life. I mean, all of you, you've mentioned so many experiences. I'm sure you could all talk for at least an hour or more on that topic. So I didn't know the answer. I asked them so many questions through my researchers, and that's what we found, that thematic tree that I put up, that there are several challenges. But I think personally, from what I've seen is, two things are possibly holding women back. There are now women GMs, it's not that there are not, but possibly holding women back is, and that is our patriarchal culture, because there are long hours, and you don't, holidays are the times you don't get leave, your Diwalis and your Christmases and the time you're meant to be with your family, because we are a collectivist society where family is primary, right? Which may not always be there in the Western societies. And we are also a society which is patriarchal. It's been measured as highly patriarchal. So women are expected to be the caregivers. So, I mean, in my time when I was vice president in the corporate sector, I had 2 aging people in my house, 2 young children. And now today, when I thought I'd be free, my kids have flown the nest and they're doing well and everything seems to be fine. And now I'm taking care of my bedridden mother. And I hear a lot of women my age doing that. So caregiving doesn't really seem to end. It's not that we're not getting help from, extended family, but it primarily falls upon women. So, and that bias, and also, I'm not bias, but that expectation, you know. And women are the worst with other women, you know. Acha, aapne bacha bimar tha, aapne chutti nahi liya. Hi Ram, you know, like you're labeled as the bad. So how can you be a good worker and a good mother? You know, I mean, it's like almost Indian society is saying choose one or the other. You know, you can't be both. And the other thing very particular about this is what I found, that relocation bias, which I mentioned. Until and unless a woman actually shifts to another property, which I find a bit strange. I don't know, some of the hoteliers here might want to talk about that. I mean, why do you have to be relocated? I mean, I know it's more experience and whatever, but if somebody is talented, I mean, why shouldn't they be promoted to the next level? Hmm.
But the property is being taken care and managed by the lady of the house, who was not part of the family, but who got married into the family, and she is leading. Rajasthan, there are team examples that the lady of the house is running it. The son, the Rajput, has inherited the property, but the lady is taken charge.
I'll just like to add on to what Payal said is there's a technical legal glitch to that. Now the hospitality industry is a 24/7 job. You cannot have कि शाम को 6 बजे के बाद office बंद. But the Shops and Establishment Act and some other, every state has those acts. The women have to be given protection and drive to the home. That creates an added expense to the organization, number one. Number two, the liability under torts, under crime, the HR is directly responsible for that. The directors are responsible for that. So that's the reason you may not see women as the face. They may be in the organization, but it's a legal glitch too.
Yeah, while that is there, but from what I gather, that the biggest impediments that are coming, one is mobility to another city, and the second is long hours. Now, Dilip and Anjali would correct me or agree or disagree with me. I think hours can be managed. That's up to the hotel management. Why does the GM have to be there for 12 hours? Why does he have to be there beyond 6 or 7 o'clock? I don't understand this. I've never understood this, and that's something that we don't even follow here. You have senior managers, you have senior HODs, you have a resident manager. If somebody important is coming, something important is happening, once in a while some VVVIP will come who expects the GM, or the GM wants to greet that person personally. Why does the GM have to be there beyond 6, 7, 8 o'clock? You would know better, but I think at one point of time, maybe it's still there. At Mahindra Holidays, the GMs were told, why you here at 7 o'clock? Why you here post 7 o'clock? Friends of mine
Oberoi hotels mein ulta hota tha, Sandeep. Where there, Mr. Oberoi would say, why aren't you at your hotel at 10 o'clock when it's so busy?
So that's what it is. So, it's not that the GM's presence matters. It's not that the GM is doing anything physically. It's the restaurant manager, it's the other managers, or at best the F&B manager who is there. The GM's presence is required. But I think if that mindset changes, whether it's the owners or the senior management, I don't think you need to work for more than 10 hours, and you can still run a successful property. All you need is good HODs who take the responsibility and they give in. This is yours. The buck stops with you after 7 o'clock. So that's something that the hotels will really need to work. Why long hours? If, like you mentioned, if there are ladies, there are more CEOs in other industry. Why not here? Hours. Why?
Sorry, Ritu, before you ask, on a lighter note, आपने जो राजस्थान का example दिया था अभी, जहाँ ladies चला रही है हवेलियाँ. So, I have best of my friends are Banna, so I'm not being discriminatory here. But वो जब inherit करते हो ना, तो वो inheritance पे हवेली के साथ अयाशी भी inherit करते हो. So you're happy to get the BB to work so that you can have a good time outside. So it's not as if they're this thing.
Good evening. Dr. Payal, just wanted to know, in your experience and travels and all that, just like corporates have crèche and great crèches and all, and mostly larger corporates. So has any hotel industry or group or individual hotel? Has there ever been a crèche in the hotel to help
Oh,
the
yeah.
Many.
women?
Yes, there have been crashes. But
Many.
at times it's been a reaction to rather than initiated. So there was a case, I'm not going to take names and stuff. Two senior women were about to leave one property. And then when they were asked, why are you leaving and this and that, they found out because of the children. Immediately they started to crash. And I find it very funny because, you know, we're talking about properties, so you just basically need one big room and a few people to look after the kids. You know, it's probably the easiest thing to work on a crash. But yeah, I guess we need a lot more, but there are crashes. Yes.
Lots more people are doing it now. It's almost like, you know, if your competitor hotel has it, they're doing a whole song and dance that you got a crash. So you'll also put one in. So I think it's now, I don't know if you have them in
Yeah,
any of your
we have
hotels,
them.
but yeah, it's quite
In
common.
fact, almost, every Leela hotel almost has a creche, with the exception of probably one or two, where they would have daycare facilities then. Yeah, I mean, our gender diversity ratio has definitely gone up. We are at 25% now. About 3 years, 4 years ago, we were in the early teens. So it has definitely helped. But I think overall, there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. I'll give you my own example. So I worked for Leela for 4 years, and then last year I quit because my office was in Mumbai and I was based there. My in-laws are not keeping well and somebody had to be home, so I had to relocate to Delhi. So I gave up my job and I relocated. And a couple of months ago, about 5-6 months ago, Leela called me back, and now I work from home. I don't go to the office. I go at my own convenience, probably 2 or 3 times in a month. But then I decide when I need to go and I plan my work accordingly. But otherwise, I work from home. And Leela has been able to do this for me because I guess this is how the outlook of companies is changing. What is the value you're getting and how can you make that work if you really want to keep your leaders?
I'll just like to answer this. You asked a question, is it helping? Since I am actually located out of a hotel, so when I pass the creche every day, I see about 6 to 8 kids, right? That is about 6 to 8 females, which is out of the 700 employees, 1% of my entire total workforce. So, you know, boon boon se sagar banta hai. It only helps.
Hello, ma'am. I am Krishna Sen. I come from Kirodimal College. Who inspires you?
For writing?
Everything. In general, in life.
Actually, not many people inspire me. So that's a very difficult question. I find a lot of faults, especially in people's writing, because I'm reviewing articles all day. No, but anybody with conviction, I'm not going to tell about a specific person, let's talk of personality traits. What she said, ma'am said, authenticity. If I find somebody very authentic, what doesn't inspire me is somebody who puts on an act, tries to impress, and blah, 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 you know, that kind of person. If somebody is very authentic, true to themselves, honest, then they gain my admiration. The problem is there's very few people like that these days. But thank you for coming. You're a young person in the audience. I appreciate you being here.
She has a question. Huh?
My question is a more general question, not exactly to Dr. Payal. What I gather from here is that there is a lot of work going on in including women into hospitality, but there is this underlying thing that I could understand from here. I hope it is not a condescending gesture towards women to include women over here, because that's the underlying strain that was unfortunately visible. I hope women are being included for their caliber, for their talent. I'm just hoping that is the case, because if it is just for diversity, it's unfair to everyone. You know. And the second thing that I wanted to say was about the nurturing aspect. There are many men who have the nurturing aspect in them. So that's why I want to reinforce this, that it should be about more of caliber than of diversity. Otherwise it's wrong for your business also if you're getting all the wrong people just for the sake of diversity. The second thing is, I think hospitality is one industry where you have the leverage to include families also. What I see is that women hold themselves back because they have to bridge the gap between what their family thinks of what they do at their job and what they're actually supposed to do. So there is a communication gap. Nobody gets the time to explain to their families what they are actually doing over there and what challenges they are facing in terms of culture. I think Mr. Puri mentioned about a person going into the boss's chambers to have a drink. So things like that. So I think in hospitality, it should be feasible to include families, counsel them, just to introduce them to the work that the women are doing over there. Once the family is comfortable, it gets easier for the women also. So that's like my 2 bits here. And I would love to have your thoughts over there.
I'll just say something I said when I spoke earlier. I don't think women, in my experience, are superior to men in many aspects, as I said, intellectually as well, socially, emotionally. But what really distinguishes them, in my experience, is what you mentioned, this ability to nurture. I'm not saying males can't nurture. But nurturing is not telling, hello, sweetie, how are you? That's not, to me, nurturing. Nurturing is in just the way you interact and relate with your team. There is a way of doing it where the team thinks, I'm in a nurturing environment. And that is something which uniquely women are better positioned to just by the makeup, just by who they are. That's my point. And I'm telling you this with so much more conviction because it's been my experience in my career to have seen successful women be those who bring out this particular characteristic more specifically in the workplace. Because as far as, I don't know where this research comes from that women aren't good in maths, Payal. In my view, I think I've only had women around in my life, both in my family and in my workspace, who are way smarter than me. So I really don't know where that comes from.
So thank you, Abba, for the question. Abba Sharma is a celebrated author herself, Rupa, author of 6 best-selling books, I must mention that. Very intelligent questions. So the first one, you're talking about tokenism, right? I mean, I can't really answer that question, but I just want to share something which kind of indirectly answers it. Many years ago in this very hall, my CEO was sitting here in an earlier organization, and I was the vice president, and at that time there was no WhatsApp, so it's a long time back. I sent him an SMS. I was sitting there, he was sitting there, and I said, we'd organized some, discussion, and I said to him, why is there an all-male panel? And after that, whenever he'd organize something, he'd say, okay, call in a few women experts, otherwise Payal's going to question me. So I think even in tokenism, we need to keep questioning people, leaders, and so that, and I'm very happy to say that today, I'm feeling all goose-pimply deja vu, but we are 3, women in our own right, leaders, as well as 3 men, so we got a very good, diverse thing over here. And just as a last comment, I hope there's one more questions. If I could, sorry, yeah, go on.
And everything it is limited to the hotel industry. Hospitality is to hospital also, hospitality to other sectors also. What is your common role of a woman out there? Basically, yes, I agree with you, but we have been talking about hotel industry, and all the panelists is most of them from the hotel industry, not from the legal perspective.
So actually, this is a book discussion by Dr. Payal. So we have just restricted it to this sector. Yeah. Only that, there's no other bias.
You're absolutely right. Similar skills are required, people management. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. But it's just that the scope of research was, yeah.
So just be patient. We'll be meeting again. So I have a little bit.
Can I just rephrase? I think in part what you asked and how Payal answered, there is some amount of tokenism. As an example, today companies, corporations are putting out numbers to say we have a target of 20% of women or 25%. I mean, the fact that you have to put a target itself suggests in some way. So to that extent, yeah, you made a good point.
Thank you, sir. So the evening is coming to an end. It has been a very lively, engaging, enlightening session, and the audience has been absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, we have to bring this to a close, but till we meet again, for Dr. Payal, serial author, and her next book, in all probability, sir, she may write on the hospital sector.
No, I'm on an encyclopedia at the moment. I'm writing an encyclopedia.
No, but she is actually a living legend. I'm like always in awe of her writing skills and the precision and the kind of spirit of excellence that she carries with her. And she's definitely a role model, not just for women, but also men. That's the kind of dedication she brings to her craft. So thank you everyone for a lovely evening.
So that's
Please
very
enjoy.
kind. I just would have since I'm the author, I can have the parting shot. But I must, reiterate what Anjali ma'am is saying about building up a network. My PhD was on mentoring. So earlier, the traditional way of mentoring was that you're paired in an organization. It's called formal mentoring. You get a boss and the boss is meant to mentor you. But these days, it's all about network constellations. Men and women need to link up with, like Anjali is giving an example of Dilip right here, former boss. It could be a former boss or a former senior colleague or a peer mentor. I've had a lot of interactions with people at the same level as me. You can't go to the boss for everything, so you thrash things out with a peer mentor. So, this is one thing. Again, research has shown that women perhaps don't recognize the importance of creating this constellation, this network of mentors, formal and informal, past mentors, present mentors, and you don't need somebody to mentor you on each and every aspect. You can just reach out to somebody and say, would you mind if I once in a while contact you for this, And in fact, research has shown that those informal mentoring relationships where you reach out, they work much better, probably because it's somebody you trust and you tend to reach out somebody who's, similar to you or something like that. Works better than the formal mentoring relationships. So I just wanted to send that as a piece of advice, and that's the last word. Thank you. And you've been an amazing moderator. I was right, yeah? She's a good moderator.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy. And by the way, I'm coming all the way from Mumbai, only for my one and only.
Yeah, I just would like to thank you all on behalf of India Habitat Center. Thank you, ma'am, Dr. Payal Kumar, and our distinguished panelist. It was a very lively and meaningful book discussion. We thank the audience for their wonderful questions and participation. Thank you all once again, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.